It started on an ordinary Tuesday when the galaxy first noticed the silence. Earth had always been a small player in the grand scheme of the cosmos, its inhabitants eager to explore, but never able to rival the great civilizations that ruled the stars. From the moment humanity made contact with the galactic powers, it was clear that Earth was nothing more than a curiosity to be observed, a species with potential, but still learning, still growing, far behind the others in terms of technology and influence. They were not seen as a threat, not even as a real concern. Rather, the rest of the galaxy paid them little attention. They made their advances, their strides, but they were always dismissed. The other races laughed at the notion that a single world could ever challenge the great empires that spanned the stars. They called Earth primitive, a small world in a remote corner of the universe where nothing of real consequence could happen. But on that Tuesday, everything changed. The stars went silent. Their broadcasts stopped. The ever-present hum of cosmic communication faded out, and with it the usual flow of messages from Earth ceased. At first, no one thought much of it. It was just a glitch, surely a temporary problem with the human communication network. After all, humanity was still working on their systems. They were still growing in that regard. But then days passed, and nothing changed. No transmissions, no signals, nothing. Earth was silent, not a whisper, not a hum, not a flicker of activity, as if the entire planet had simply vanished from the map. Entire fleets of alien vessels were dispatched to Earth's location to investigate, but when they arrived, they found nothing. The planet itself appeared to be in perfect condition. The cities still standing, the oceans still moving, the forests still lush, but there was no sign of life, no sign of human presence. No ships, no satellites, no signs of human-made technology in orbit. There was no trace of the billions who had once called this world home. The silence stretched on, and the galaxy began to grow uneasy. At first, the leading civilizations shrugged it off. They dismissed it as some sort of temporary anomaly, a simple issue of a power failure, or perhaps a communications breakdown in the human network. But as the silence continued, they could not shake the growing sense of fear. Something was wrong, something bigger than they had ever imagined. Earth had always been a point of interest for many races, a place of study, a place of curiosity. But never once had anyone considered what would happen if humanity decided to stop communicating. What if they had done something different, something no one could have expected, no one could have prepared for? And now the galaxy was left with a strange uncertainty hanging in the air. What had happened to Earth? Where were the humans? And more importantly, who had the power to make an entire planet go silent? And with each passing day, the question grew more ominous, because no one had an answer. No one knew where the humans had gone, and no one dared to guess. As the weeks passed, the silence from Earth became more than just a curiosity. It became an enigma. The galaxy's great powers, once content to ignore the small planet in the far reaches of space, now found themselves unable to look away. Every communication network that spanned across the stars remained intact, yet Earth's broadcasts had stopped completely. There was no warning, no sign of distress, just an eerie void where the human voices had once echoed. At first, it was dismissed as a technical fault, a glitch in the system. Surely, someone thought, the humans were having some kind of problem with their infrastructure. It was plausible. After all, Earth had only recently developed technologies that allowed them to send messages beyond their own solar system. But as days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, the question grew: why hadn't they fixed it? If Earth were facing some kind of disaster, why wasn't there any sign of it? The more the galaxy's leaders pondered, the more uncomfortable the situation became. Earth had always been a curious world, small, yes, but resource-rich, and with an undeniable potential. Their rapid technological advancements in the last century had impressed even the most seasoned of alien scientists. Yet, despite their potential, they had never posed any real threat. They were still young, still learning. But now, as Earth remained silent, that perception began to shift. All across the galaxy, rumors began to spread. What if Earth wasn't just facing a breakdown of communication systems? What if something had happened to them, something far more terrifying? What if, and this thought chilled even the bravest of leaders, the humans had simply disappeared, gone into hiding, or worse, been wiped out by a force far beyond anything the galaxy could imagine. Alien experts were sent to investigate Earth's last known coordinates, and what they found only deepened the mystery. The planet was alive. It was as if time had frozen, as if the very pulse of Earth had come to a standstill. There were no signs of destruction, no evidence of war or disaster. The cities were intact, the ecosystems unscarred. The only thing missing was the presence of humanity. This wasn't a planet in ruins. It was a planet in suspension, waiting for something. The silence was not just an absence, it was a message. But no one could decode it. Alien fleets hovered over Earth's orbit, but they were met with an unyielding emptiness, a strange calm that made even the most battle-hardened commanders uneasy. The fear began to spread like wildfire. For all their might, the galactic empires could not ignore the fact that something had happened to Earth, something none of them had anticipated. The fear was not just of what might have happened to the humans, it was of what they could do. What could a species capable of erasing their presence from the galaxy do to those who had once laughed at their potential? Whispers began to circulate that Earth might have developed a weapon of unimaginable power, one that could erase entire civilizations in an instant. The galaxy's greatest minds scrambled to understand. How had the humans achieved this? How had they hidden their powers so completely from the rest of the universe? As fear gripped the hearts of the galaxy's leaders, they could no longer deny it. The silence was not a glitch. It was a declaration. Earth had changed, and no one knew if it was for better or for worse. And the greatest question of all loomed in the background. Had humanity truly disappeared, or had they simply chosen to vanish? As the silence stretched into months, the fear among the galaxy's leaders deepened. The initial theories of a communication breakdown were abandoned, replaced with darker possibilities. No one truly believed that Earth had simply gone quiet by accident. Something far more calculated was at play, and the galaxy's greatest minds were determined to uncover the truth. A coalition of the galaxy's most powerful civilizations assembled. These races, once confident in their dominance, now found themselves scrambling to understand what had happened to the humans. Despite their technological superiority, they had never fully appreciated Earth's potential. In hindsight, they saw their miscalculation. The humans had always been underestimated, seen as a fleeting species, one that could be brushed aside. But this silence, this strange absence, was a clear sign they had missed something. A fleet of exploration vessels was dispatched to Earth's coordinates. They arrived at the planet's orbit, only to find it eerily serene, untouched by any sign of devastation or chaos. The planet's surface was flawless. There were no craters, no fires, no signs of alien invasion. The cities stood as they always had, though silent and still, as if the entire human population had simply vanished in an instant. The fleet's commanders ordered probes to scan the planet's surface and atmosphere, searching for any indication of what might have happened. Yet the scans revealed nothing abnormal. The air was breathable, the oceans still glistening, and the forests stood as lush and green as they had been before. No seismic activity, no signs of conflict. The planet seemed peaceful, too peaceful. The investigation teams moved swiftly, deploying ground teams to Earth's largest cities. They found abandoned buildings, empty streets, and stillness that permeated every corner. There were no bodies, no remnants of civilization's sudden collapse. It was as if the humans had simply disappeared, leaving everything behind. There were no signs of war or environmental disasters, no evidence of a technological catastrophe. The deeper they searched, the more baffling it became. High-tech equipment was found lying dormant in labs and factories, entire research centers filled with advanced machinery, yet there were no operators, no human hands to guide them. The lack of human presence was maddening. The very things that once defined the human race, communication, technology, innovation, were present, but without the people who had created them. A few scientists on the investigation teams began to theorize that the humans had somehow discovered a way to erase their presence from the universe. Perhaps they had learned to hide in plain sight, to manipulate the very fabric of space itself. After all, humanity had always been a species driven by curiosity and ingenuity, never satisfied with the limits of their knowledge. What if they had stumbled upon something, some technology, some force, that allowed them to make the entire galaxy forget about them? The galaxy's most advanced artificial intelligences were brought into the fold, tasked with uncovering any hidden patterns or anomalies in the data. These machines, capable of analyzing vast amounts of information, began to notice something strange. Earth's electromagnetic signature, which had once been so distinct, now appeared, muted, as if the planet was hiding its true nature. The signals were still there, but they were suppressed, buried deep beneath layers of static. This was no accident. This was deliberate. The conclusion was unavoidable. Humanity had mastered something far beyond what any other race had anticipated. And as the investigation teams unearthed more clues, one undeniable truth became apparent. Humanity had not been destroyed. They had simply gone silent, and that silence was a warning. The galaxy had underestimated the humans for too long. And now, it seemed, they were about to pay the price for that mistake. As the investigation into Earth's silence deepened, the galaxy's most powerful leaders and minds were left to grapple with a question that no one could answer. What had happened to the humans? Where had they gone? Was this silence a sign of destruction, or something far worse? For months, the galaxy had waited, and then, just as hope seemed to fade entirely, it happened. A single signal broke through the silence. At first, it was almost unnoticed, a faint transmission buried beneath the noise of cosmic radiation. But those who were listening closely, those who had been waiting for any sign, heard it. It was a strange, distorted message, sent from Earth's coordinates, but unlike anything anyone had ever encountered. The signal was not a cry for help or an SOS. It was not a warning or a plea. It was a simple phrase, repeated over and over again. But it carried with it a weight that sent a ripple of unease through the galaxy. "We are watching." The words echoed through every major communications network in the galaxy, and as they spread, a shiver ran down the spines of those who heard it. There was no explanation, no context, no elaboration, just those 3 words, repeated with chilling precision. And that was all. The message made no sense. Who was watching? Who was sending this? Why only those words? Was it a threat? A declaration? The galaxy's leaders scrambled to understand its meaning, but no answers came. Every effort to trace the signal back to its source only led to more confusion. The message was originating from Earth itself, but it was masked, hidden beneath layers of encryption that no one could crack. It seemed to be coming from everywhere and nowhere at once, as if the planet had somehow integrated itself into the signal, merging with it, becoming part of the transmission itself. The implications were immediately clear to some, and terrifying to others. The phrase, "We are watching," was not just a message. It was a declaration. The silence from Earth, it seemed, had been intentional. Humanity was not gone. They had never disappeared. They had been waiting, watching. And now, they had decided to make their presence known. The fear that had been growing steadily throughout the galaxy now exploded into panic. What did this mean? What had humanity done? Had they been building something? Developing something? The once dismissed idea that Earth had unlocked some kind of unimaginable power now seemed far more plausible. There were those who believed the message was a warning, a declaration that humanity had advanced to a level far beyond the galaxy's expectations. Others saw it as a threat, a sign that the humans were preparing to strike. Some even speculated that the phrase was meant to send a message of superiority, an assertion that humanity had been observing the rest of the galaxy all along, silently studying, learning, waiting for the right moment to act. In the deepest corridors of power, the galaxy's most influential leaders gathered, debating what to do. Some called for a full-scale military response. Others urged caution, fearing that attacking Earth could provoke something far worse than they could imagine. Every alien race, from the proud and ancient to the young and ambitious, felt the weight of the silence and the eerie simplicity of the message. But one thing became clear. The humans had been more than just passive observers. They had been watching, learning, and now they were ready to make their move. And the galaxy had no idea what that would mean. The galaxy's reaction to the signal was immediate and overwhelming. The message had shaken everyone to their core. As leaders from the great empires gathered in secret meetings, the consensus was clear. Humanity was no longer the insignificant species they had once thought them to be. Something had changed on Earth, and it was far more unsettling than anyone had anticipated. For years, Earth had been seen as a minor player in the cosmic game. Its people were viewed as resilient, yes, but still primitive in many ways, with their technology still in its early stages compared to the grand ancient civilizations that controlled the stars. But that perception was quickly eroding. If humanity had truly developed the ability to erase its presence, to hide in plain sight, what else had they mastered in their years of silence? And then, as if to answer those questions, the galaxy was met with a new revelation. Human ships, sleek and unlike anything any alien race had ever seen, began to emerge from the dark reaches of space. These ships were not the crude vessels humanity had once used to explore their solar system. No, these ships were something else entirely. They were advanced beyond the comprehension of the galaxy's greatest minds. At first, they appeared one by one, then in small fleets, all appearing from seemingly nowhere. Their design was unlike any other, complex and elegant, yet practical and formidable. The ships moved with grace and precision, as if they had always existed, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. It was clear now that the humans had been preparing for something, perhaps for this very moment. The first wave of human ships appeared just beyond the borders of known space. No warning, no negotiation, just the quiet hum of engines as they made their way toward the heart of the galaxy. These ships were equipped with technology that no one had ever seen before. Their energy shields were nearly impervious, their weapons more devastating than any the galaxy's armies had ever encountered. The humans had mastered something that no one had expected, something that had the potential to change the balance of power in the entire universe. Alien fleets scrambled to intercept these human ships, but they were too late. The human vessels were faster, more maneuverable, and their weapons more precise. With every encounter, alien forces found themselves outmatched, outwitted, and outgunned. The humans didn't just possess advanced technology. They seemed to have an uncanny ability to predict their enemies' moves, to counter their tactics before they were even fully realized. It was as if the humans had studied the very nature of warfare itself, understanding it on a level that even the most ancient civilizations could not fathom. The realization hit hard. The humans had been watching for far longer than anyone had thought. They had been quietly observing the galaxy's great powers, learning their strengths and weaknesses, studying their tactics, their technology, their flaws. And now, they were ready to use that knowledge to their advantage. In the wake of their surprise arrival, human diplomats began to make contact, though their approach was anything but conventional. Instead of the usual formalities, the humans issued a direct message. We are here to lead. The message wasn't one of negotiation, but of dominance. It was a declaration of their newfound power, and the galaxy was left to consider how they would respond. The galaxy's great empires were faced with a choice: submit to humanity's rise and risk being overwhelmed, or attempt to resist and risk annihilation. The humans had shown their strength, and the galaxy now understood the true meaning of the message that had first echoed through the stars. Earth was no longer silent. It was a force to be reckoned with, and it had arrived. As humanity's ships moved deeper into the galaxy, the truth began to settle in across every empire, from the oldest civilizations to the youngest. The realization was inescapable. The humans were not just a curious species. They were a force, a rising power that had been quietly building, learning, and preparing for this moment. No one had anticipated the scale of their progress, the depth of their strategy, or the sheer brilliance of their technology. The more the galaxy's great leaders studied the humans, the more they realized how wrong they had been. Earth, once seen as a backwater planet, had managed to master technologies that the galaxy's most advanced empires had not even dreamed of. But it wasn't just their technology that made them formidable. It was their mind, their relentless drive, and their ability to adapt. The humans had not simply caught up with the galaxy's great powers. They had surpassed them. For centuries, humans had been seen as a species of potential. Their ability to innovate, to create, and to learn at an astonishing rate had always been noted by the galaxy's best minds. But no one had truly believed they could ascend to this level of power. It had always been assumed that humanity's raw ambition would eventually be tempered by their lack of experience and resources. But the humans had proved them wrong. They had unlocked the secrets of energy manipulation, developed faster-than-light travel, and crafted weapons capable of dismantling entire fleets in seconds. More unsettling was their method of warfare. The humans did not fight like any other species. They fought with a kind of relentless precision, a strategy that seemed to predict their enemies' every move. Alien fleets that had once been invincible now found themselves systematically dismantled by the humans' superior tactics and technology. It wasn't just about firepower. It was about intelligence, anticipation, and control. The humans had studied their opponents in ways that the galaxy's greatest military minds never thought possible, and they used that knowledge to devastating effect. Even the most experienced commanders among the galactic powers found themselves caught off guard by the sheer adaptability of human forces. While other species relied on brute strength or overwhelming firepower, the humans relied on their minds. They didn't need to overpower their enemies. They needed to outthink them, outmaneuver them, and dismantle them piece by piece. The result was a level of warfare the galaxy had never seen before, swift, precise, and relentless. As human fleets continued to push deeper into galactic space, the leaders of the great empires were left to reevaluate everything they had believed. The humans weren't a fringe species. They weren't a curiosity. They were a new power, one that had learned from every mistake, every misstep, and every failure of the past. They had taken the time to understand the universe and its complexities, and now they were using that knowledge to reshape the balance of power. The galaxy's oldest and most powerful races, those who had ruled for millennia, now found themselves scrambling to maintain their position. The once untouchable forces that had been unchallenged for centuries now faced a new and terrifying enemy, a species that had not only caught up, but had surpassed them in ways they never imagined. The realization was dawning. The humans had been watching, learning, and waiting. And now, the galaxy was about to face the consequences of underestimating them. For the first time, the great empires knew true fear. The age of humanity had arrived, and there was no turning back. As humanity's fleets continued to advance through the galaxy, the ancient empires found themselves at a crossroads. They had always prided themselves on their strength, their long histories, and their superior technologies. Yet now, they faced an enemy they could neither predict nor overpower. The humans were unlike anything they had ever encountered. Brilliant, adaptable, and ruthless, in ways the galaxy's greatest civilizations had never been forced to consider. The galaxy was being forced to confront a new reality. Humanity was not a rising power. They were the new rulers of the stars. Desperate to halt humanity's relentless advance, the galaxy's leaders began to meet in secret. They knew they had to act, but no one knew how. Their fleets had already suffered defeat after defeat. Their most advanced weapons had proven ineffective against the human ships. Every attempt to form a united front to repel the humans had failed. In fact, humanity's ability to predict and counter their strategies had only made the galaxy's forces look inept. It wasn't just that they were losing. It was the humiliation of it. The galaxy's greatest military minds were being outclassed by a species they had long regarded as weak and unimportant. One by one, the leaders of the galaxy's superpowers tried to negotiate, seeking a way to coexist with humanity, to offer them a place within the galactic order. But the humans were not interested in compromise. The message they sent was clear. Humanity had no intention of sharing the stars. They had waited too long, watched too patiently, and learned too much. Now that they had the power, they would take what they were owed. Diplomats from the galaxy's most powerful races begged humanity for peace, but their pleas fell on deaf ears. The humans' response was swift and uncompromising. "You had your chance. The galaxy will be ours." The words were simple, but they sent a shockwave through the room. There would be no peace. There would be no negotiations. The humans had risen beyond the point of bargaining. Now, they'd wanted total control. The galactic powers, faced with the overwhelming force and intelligence of the humans, had no choice but to prepare for a final desperate stand. They had underestimated humanity for too long, and now they were paying the price. But even as their fleets assembled, they knew it might be too late. Humanity had shown them how far they had fallen behind. Their weapons, their ships, their strategies, all were outdated. Humanity had already demonstrated its ability to outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast them. But the galaxy's leaders couldn't afford to back down. If they surrendered to humanity's demands, they would lose everything: power, influence, and control. So they made one last effort to unite their forces, to form an alliance strong enough to challenge the humans. But this was no longer a war of armies. This was a war of wills, and the humans had the upper hand. Human fleets descended upon the galaxy's capital worlds, striking swiftly and decisively. Where the galactic forces had once commanded respect, they now found themselves crumbling beneath the weight of humanity's intelligence and might. The humans' mastery of tactics, their precision, and their unyielding will to conquer had turned the tide. One by one, alien systems fell, their once proud capitals reduced to ash. The galaxy, once united in its superiority, now faced the terrifying truth. They were powerless against humanity. The reckoning had come, and it was only just beginning. As humanity's fleets continued their unstoppable march, the galaxy was forced to confront the unthinkable. Their reign had come to an end. What had started as a mysterious disappearance, a fleeting silence, had transformed into the overwhelming rise of a new galactic power. The great empires, once so confident in their might and superiority, now found themselves at the mercy of a species they had long underestimated. Humanity had ascended to a level of dominance no one had anticipated, not even the humans themselves. Their understanding of technology, warfare, and strategy had far surpassed what the galaxy's oldest civilizations could have conceived. But it wasn't just their advancements that set them apart. It was their sheer will to survive, their unrelenting drive to grow, to adapt, to conquer. The humans were not simply fighting for power, they were fighting for their place in the universe, and they had claimed it. The final battles were swift and decisive. One by one, the galactic capitals fell. Alien fleets that had once been the pride of their empires were decimated by human forces that seemed to anticipate every move. The resistance, though brave, was futile. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy's great civilizations had no answer to the relentless tide of humanity's strength. But even as humanity's victory seemed inevitable, something unexpected began to happen. The destruction, the overwhelming power, had left a scar on the galaxy. Entire systems were wiped out in the blink of an eye, and the devastation spread like wildfire. The question, though unspoken, haunted the minds of even the most powerful humans. Had they gone too far? For the first time, the galaxy's new rulers began to question the cost of their ascension. They had achieved everything they had set out to accomplish: control, dominance, and power. But with it came a sense of emptiness, a realization that the very thing that had driven them to this point might now be their undoing. Had they won simply to survive, or had they lost something in the process? It was then that the humans made their final declaration. They were not just conquerors. They were the new stewards of the galaxy. They would rebuild, but not in the image of the old empires. Humanity's rule would be one of cooperation, one of order and progress, not oppression and fear. The lessons of their rise and the cost of their victories would shape their rule. They would not repeat the mistakes of the civilizations that had fallen before them. Humanity's final message to the galaxy echoed across the stars. We have watched, we have learned, and now we lead. The galaxy will be different. This is not an end, but a beginning. With those words, the human fleets ceased their march. The galaxy, broken and scarred, began the long process of healing. The humans, once seen as a fledgling species on the edge of irrelevance, had become the galaxy's new architects. Under their guidance, new alliances were formed, old wounds were healed, and the galaxy slowly began to rebuild, not under the shadow of oppressive empires, but under the promise of a new era. And so, humanity's ascension was complete. They had not just conquered the galaxy. They had reshaped it. And the universe, once filled with the arrogant pride of ancient civilizations, now stood in awe of the species that had come from a tiny planet, far on the edge of the cosmos, to claim its place among the stars.